Welcome everybody to Tropical Weather Update. It is around 10 a.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday, and this is an update for Hurricane Milton. I want to focus in this video on the potential track of the storm. As far as strength goes, everything is going as expected. In my last video, I said this could become a very strong Category 5 hurricane, and it did yesterday. But fortunately, it happened yesterday, and it no longer is a Category 5 storm. Yesterday, though, it did reach historic hurricane proportions with pressure below 900 millibars, like 898 or 892 at some point. The strongest ever recorded is 882, which was Hurricane Wilma. So this ranks maybe top 5 all time as one of the strongest hurricanes ever recorded by Hurricane Hunter aircraft. Fortunately, though, it has reached its peak. It is not expected to strengthen any further. It is a Category 4 storm right now. It will probably maintain that for a while, but by tomorrow it is expected to weaken. And if you look at the intensity forecasts, let's see if we can find that, all the models show it weakening. So if it weakens from where it is now, that means it'll go to a Category 3 or less by the time it makes landfall sometime late tomorrow, which is tomorrow's Wednesday. So it'll be very late on Wednesday, like late into the night, 10, 11, midnight is when we expect landfall on the west coast of Florida. Now let's focus, though, on the track. The National Hurricane Center, again, maintains the same track, which is just south of the Tampa area, like literally the St. Petersburg area. If you look on Google Maps, you know, they're looking at St. Pete Beach, Ruskin, that area. So that's their track. Let's go back to that. But there is some indication that the track may be shifting a little bit south, which would be a huge, huge, huge benefit to Tampa and Orlando because of the storm surge threat in Tampa would be significantly reduced, and an eye not passing through Metro Orlando would be a huge deal from the standpoint of power outages and from damage from a Category 3 hurricane. Let's take a look at that. This National Hurricane Center display that I found, you can plot all the models. And this is 165 different spaghetti models. Not just the hurricane models, not just the GFS, not just the GEPS, but all of the models that I can find. There's more than even 165, but I selected 165 of the major models. I think the other ones are intensity models. So if you look at this and you look at the center of this, it is well south of Tampa. I mean, this black line here you can see. I'm going to go ahead and do a marker here. I mean, this is kind of where the consensus of all the models are, all the computer models. National Hurricane Center focuses on the hurricane models. They're not looking at all 165 models. If this were to happen, Tampa Bay and Orlando would dodge a big bullet because from a storm surge standpoint, the counterclockwise winds would be coming from the east in Tampa and would blow water offshore. And obviously not receiving the eye wall would be a huge, huge benefit, as well as Orlando not receiving the eye wall. Then it would go further south. So if these computer models, if the consensus average of them comes true, Florida may be dodging a bullet, especially the major metropolitan areas. Because again, if you look at, let's go to Google Maps, looking at this, the National Hurricane Center's forecast is something like this, through Orlando and St. Petersburg and Tampa, while the consensus of the models is more like this. So the consensus of the models has it coming ashore around Bradenton, Sarasota, Longboat Key, Siesta Key, and then going through the Lake Wales area. And these are much less populated areas. Worse, though, for mobile homes. So if this scenario were to occur, we'll call this scenario number 2, and this is number 1, the National Hurricane Center track. The number 1 track is worse for the metropolitan areas, obviously, and worse for Tampa and the Tampa Bay and St. Petersburg because water will be then pushed up this way if the center, were to make landfall here, and then the water would be pushed offshore here. But if it comes into the south, then the water would be coming offshore this way. That being said, so either way it's not good, but it's better to avoid the most populated areas if possible. So if if we could avoid a storm surge catastrophe in Tampa and avoid the Clearwater, St. Petersburg, Tampa area for the eye wall and avoid the Orlando area for the eye wall, that would be huge. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I mean, that's not the National Hurricane Center forecast. I'm just going based on what I see here on some of these tracks. Like even so, this is the hurricane track guidance, which is what the National Hurricane Center looks at. But if you look at the GEF's tracks, it's a little further south. And certainly if you do the National Hurricane Center's model display, this is their software, it looks a little further south to me. So that's possible good news. But prepare as if you're anywhere in this area, if you're either in the Tampa or Orlando area, prepare as if you're going to receive a direct hit by the eye. But if you're further south, note that some of these models are shifting southward. And so if you're in the Lake Wales area, if you're in Sarasota, you really need, again, let's go into the Google Maps. Prepare also in Bradenton, Siesta Key, and all of these areas to the south are going to receive significant storm surge no matter what because of the counterclockwise circulation. So if you are ordered to evacuate in Venice, Siesta Key, Longboat Key, you need to take that advice seriously and move out quickly. And then also if you live in any mobile or manufactured homes in the Lake Wales area, Fort Meade, Bartow, St. Cloud, and Cape Canaveral, the storm may in fact be coming a little further south and you may be in the crosshair. South Lakeland, Auburndale, Bartow, Fort Meade, that's what I said. But that's still a better scenario than it hitting the major metropolitan areas and pushing storm surge into the Tampa Bay, which will flood a lot of St. Petersburg and South Tampa and Riverview. If we get lucky, though, and the track goes a little south, the water will be pushing away from the Tampa Bay, and that will significantly reduce the storm surge. There still may be some surge on the eastern shore of St. Petersburg because the water will be being pushed to the east or to the west. But anyway, my goal here is just to give you some idea of where this is going to make landfall from a local standpoint. If you look at the hurricane tracks, the HAFS-A model, for example, from the National Hurricane Center, this model has it making landfall right around St. Petersburg or Clearwater. So this model, and this is why the National Hurricane Center's forecast model track is a little further north. This is the HWRF, another hurricane model, even has it a little further north than that, like North Tampa. So again, that's why the National Hurricane Center forecast track is further north than the consensus of all the models, which has it coming in a little further south. So this is the best I can do. I'm not trying to tell you I can predict the future. I'm just trying to give you all the data that's available. If you look at all the consensus of the models, the hurricane's probably going to make landfall around the Sarasota, Bradenton area. If you look at the National Hurricane Center and the hurricane models only, they have a landfall much closer to Tampa. So again, looking at Google Maps, I at least think we can narrow down the landfall potential from somewhere from here to Venice. So anywhere from Clearwater to Venice could be the landfall. I personally think it's going to be on the south end of this range based on all the models I'm seeing. But the National Hurricane Center thinks it's a little bit on the north end of this based on their own models. But that's that's less models they're looking at than I'm looking at. I'm looking at all the models. But I think that's pretty much it right here. And then if you take that all the way across the state, this is the area of most concern. Maybe even take that a little bit further north. So Orlando on the north end of where the storm could go, and on the south end, Venice to Melbourne. And maybe we take this a little bit further north. I don't want to exclude Orlando from the potential track here. But this, to me, looks like what the track is going to be, somewhere in between these two lines that I've drawn here, these disorganized lines. But if you live in Florida, at least this gives you some idea. If you're further north from here, you're in a lot better shape. So, for example, if you live, in Cedar Key, Gainesville, you've been hit by a lot of hurricanes recently. I think you're out of the woods at this stage. I think at this point in time, this is going to be a Central Florida event, not a North Florida event, and it's going to be somewhere, between the Tampa, Orlando, Titusville area, all the way down to the Venice, Melbourne area on the east coast of Florida. That's what it's looking like to me at this point. I'll try to do another video at another time to go over more tracks if they change. But this is what I have right now to share. Thanks everybody. Like this video and subscribe if you haven't. Appreciate it, and be safe during this what could be pretty powerful hurricane hitting the west coast of Florida. Thanks a lot everybody, and have a great day.